It's time for another meeting of the Bristol County Water Authority's Board of Directors. It's Thursday, October 23rd. It's 5 o'clock, and we're having our Board of Directors meeting. First item is called to order, which I just did. The next item is public input, and I don't see any members of the public here, so we'll skip that. And we'll go on to item 3, which is a pension report, which is being done remotely via Zoom, as I understand it. Yeah, I know.
This is United States.
This one.
Did we nice the current?
Don't we run one time more, 5 years, or we still have a pension?
He was the one that sent it.
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear it? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Is this the right, is this full presentation?
The one I was gonna walk through, I think it's 8 or 9 pages.
Yes.
Yep. So the 9-page kind of slide deck, that's the one I was gonna look at. It's more of a summary, so we don't have to go through the 30 plus page report.
Are you doing that?
Are you going to share your screen, Jed?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I definitely can. Let me see.
So we can make this full screen.
Okay, so just to give you, I know we did this last year. I'm Steve Kutu, the director here at Bristol County Water. And I know you can't see it, you're just talking through the screen, right? So we have a full board here tonight, 9-member board. Dan Hughes, finance manager here as well.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll let you know if I can't hear a question come up, or just yell into the message if I can't hear you.
Okay.
I know sometimes when you're in a bigger room, it's hard for the mic to work for everyone. It asked me to send a request to you
Yeah.
to share my screen, Steve. Did that come up?
Yeah, I got that.
Okay. Oh yeah, now it'll let me go here. Alright. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Are we still waiting on the public comment, or was that part? We're done with that?
We're done. There are no members of the public here.
Okay, so that was easy. No comments. Alright, well, I'll jump in if you guys are ready, unless you have any questions before we get started.
We're ready.
Okay, so here's just kind of a few highlights for what's happened since the prior evaluation. It was overall a pretty good year. The assets performed better than expected, which always helps results. We had expected as of the beginning of last year that it would earn 7.5%, and you guys actually had more like a just under 12% return. So that really helps results. We had also on the liability side, we had a little bit of a gain. There was one new retiree who had gone out a little earlier than expected. Like, our assumption assumes everyone's going to go out at normal retirement, which is age 65. And so this early retirement, they wouldn't get as much service if they would have worked until 65, and they wouldn't, gotten more pay increases. So having someone go out a little early decreased the liability as well. So we kind of have those two things were, positive for the results. The one thing that kind of offset that partially was last year we had decided to change the rate, the assumed interest rate, that 7.5%. We had brought it down to 7% for starting this year. And I had some email documentation from after the last board meeting where we had talked about that. So we did lower the interest rate, and there was a real small change for the mortality assumption that we use. Since your group is too small to kind of come up with its own mortality assumption, we rely on big national studies that, the powers that be, the Society of Actuaries publishes. And they had just come out with an update as of March of this year, I think it was, where they just added more years of experience for these big studies. So we made that update. It actually lowered your liability just a little bit. So that kind of helped offset. But overall, when you kind of add them all together, there was more positives than there were negatives. So it was a pretty good year. So then that recommended contribution, so that's the kind of the minimum, I guess, maybe you guys think of it as. And that's using that 7% interest rate now. That actually decreased from 71 down to 19,000. And then when we look at that alternative method, which is more so I think what you guys are typically funding towards, that actually came down substantially as well. We kept that alternative interest rate at 6.5%. So that part didn't change, but it still came down from 117 last year to 33,000 this year. So positive results, increased funding status, and decreased contributions. There are a couple of upcoming potential retirements that we'll want to keep an eye on, especially for, if you have cash flow issues, if you don't have enough cash in the bank, we might want to, warn the trust company or warn your asset advisor that we have some potentially large benefits coming up here in the next year. If they go, if they retire at 65, if they work later, then we won't have it. It'll get spread out a little longer. So yeah, that's kind of the big points. I can walk through a little more detail. So overall, your population has stayed fairly steady. There was just one new retirement, so your number of employees went down by one and your retirees went up by one. But overall, the benefits, kind of the average pay, increased fairly close to what we would have expected. And yeah, it was, really not a big surprise anywhere as we were working through the data and assets. So that was good. So yeah, now the total count that's left in the plan is 16 people total. So smaller and smaller each year, which makes sense because we're closed. Here's the asset side. You can see kind of some history. We've had a few years of really good returns now, so that's been each year kind of helping results. So right now, as of July 1st, when we did the valuation report, you have just over 3.9 million in the trust. Any questions about that? The data or the assets?
Nope.
Okay. So this just gives a comparison of last year versus this year results. You can see that funded percentage going up. The unfunded liability that's still outstanding is going down, which both help the contribution calculation. So you can see that recommended contribution for last year was at 71,000. This year it's about 19,000. And then that alternative contribution, that was the one that came down from 117 to 33 about. And it looks like you guys last year put in 125,000, so even above what the alternative calculation was. So you're making progress faster even than would have been expected. So that's good too. And then the next page we just show, so it's that same, the second column here, the 7/1/2025 results, is that first column. We get down to that 19,000 again. And then this 6.5% shows how the results look under that kind of alternative approach that we've always calculated. So even using a 6.5% interest rate, you're still, very well funded, over 95%, and the contributions keeps coming down because you have less unfunded liability to have to make up for it. So really positive results this year. Here's that, I had mentioned that potential for some spikes in the benefit amounts. So there's two people who are either right at 65 or going to be turning 65 here shortly this year sometime. So if, the assumption says, we assume people are going to start payment at 65, and we assume that they're going to take a lump sum. So this is kind of, I guess you could think of it as kind of worst case scenario. So if those two people who are reaching age 65 both do take the lump sum, it's a potential that we could be looking at about a $1.2 million payout that would have to come out of the trust. So it might be worth, talking to your investment advisors about some strategies. You don't want to have to buy, sell low or something to pay these. So I don't know if they have some kind of alternative method they could use for being prepared for this potential large benefit. If they take an annuity instead of taking the lump sum, then it'll get spread out over a number of years instead of being that big spike. And then once we get down a few years down the road, we have a similar situation where there's a couple of people that turn 65 within a year or two of each other. So that's what that second big spike there is. But yeah, that's almost worst case scenario. But yeah, we just want to warn you guys so you're not surprised with, if all of a sudden these huge payments come up and have to be made. So that's just kind of a warning for what to look forward to. And then here's just a quick summary of the assumptions. So we got that funding interest rate down to 7%, which is good. It was getting, anything above 7% is getting a little harder to justify. It used to be you could put it all in bonds 20 years ago and get 8% or 7%, but as each year we kind of see that average assumed rate come down. It's happy with that now. We have that updated mortality table. Last year it was Pub 2010 is what they would have called it, and that just means public sector. So they when they do their big study, they take the mortality for public sector employees versus private sector, corporate employees. So that was just a small update. I think it dropped the liability by, I don't even think it was 0.5%, so it was pretty minimal. And then I guess the only other thing that we could maybe consider right now for the asset method, we're using straight market value. So whatever is in the trust as of, June 30th is the amount we use for these calculations. So a lot of plans instead of using that flat amount, because it makes your contributions go up and down because you're at the whim of the market. Whatever the market said on June 30th, that's what your asset value is. So a lot of plans will smooth in at the gains and losses. So if your assets had a huge gain, you wouldn't recognize all of that additional in your smoothed value of assets. You would recognize it over a period of time, typically 4 or 5 years. So that can help with some of the volatility, but it's up to you guys. If you're already funding over the planned 7% interest rate contribution anyway, it probably isn't as big of a deal. But yeah, there'd be a method that we could use, because it feels like, it's a point in time, like one day. So if you measure it as of June 30th versus July 2nd, you could have a pretty big difference in results. So that's why plans smooth assets, we call it. So just something to consider. We're fine using the market value, just a warning that might make it volatile.
Any
I
questions?
think that was the things. Yeah, I think that was all. That last page is just legalese, disclosure stuff.
Anybody have any questions of Jen?
It's easier to present when it's good news. We seem to get a lot. The meetings take longer when it's not good news. So you guys had a good year.
Yeah, as far as public pensions go, it's really encouraging to see that it's 100% or close to 100% funded. Albeit it's not
you're getting real close.
It's not a very
sure.
big plan, but.
Yeah. So I think overall we were happy with results, I guess. This is the main point of my presentation, if you boil it down. Good year. Any other thoughts, comments you wanted to talk about?
Great, yeah.
Well, I guess
I think we're good.
Good? All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy.
That was easy, huh? All right.
Exactly. A little faster than I'd even booked out for my calendar, so that's perfect.
Well, thank you so
We're
much.
always around, so if you think of something else after just shoot us an email.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for having us, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great.
Yes.
Considering 10 years ago, experts on the street.
I told the driver, told us it would be wet though. I didn't even see anything.
We funded the 6.5, she's no We funded that 6.5 and then, you know, a little bit more just to get a nice even number, so that's why
well.
I think last year was recommended like 117, I did like 125.
That's what you said.
Just a little bit. Like this year, it says like what, 33, 32, I think I'm budgeting 50, because we've actually already put that in. We've already paid in that much, so I can't budget less.
So let me ask you a question. When she's pointing out this possibility next year if 2 people retire, that we could have a $1.2 million liability. Well, I look at these numbers and I say, well, I'm not too concerned about it. Now I want to ask, should I be concerned? Because I look at this and I say, I've got $3.5 million. And if I have to pay out $1.2 million, wouldn't it come from those assets? Okay, so then our assets go down, and then I look at the chart, and if everything else remains the same, we don't have to worry about it till 2037. In 2027, 26, it's like $200,000 a year. So I'm not sure why
That's
she
probably
was...
what's coming out of the plan. That would be. what's-
Liabilities would go down too.
Yeah, the liability would go down proportionally.
You take the
But no, I understand that, so I'm not sure why she was raising...
Unsure.
I think it's more because what ends up happening, once I know, usually, you know, it takes like 6 weeks or so for the whole thing to evolve. Like if I know the person's gonna take a lump sum, then I contact Washington Trust and say, hey, you know, because they don't, you know, hey, you know, Juan's gonna retire, he wants to take a lump sum, his value is $385,000. They'll go in the plan, and they'll sell whatever assets they need to make sure there's enough cash to do
Right.
that. I think that's what she's worried about,
Yeah.
letting them know ahead of time.
From a
'Cause that's
cash-
a big number to come up at once.
Yeah,
Yes.
To sell.
We have a bunch of losers in the plan, for example, for investments. We don't want to go underwater.
Right.
either, So we can
But you
sell
don't want
high and
no, but you have to sell what you have to
Yeah, that's gonna be
sell
like-
to get the money to pay somebody out.
Right.
But if we have $4 million in assets, and granted, the market can be crazy, and I worry about it every day, and that we're going into a time of uncertainty for sure, but we still have $4 million today, and if two people are gonna retire, we owe them $1.2 million, we should be in pretty good shape to be able to pay that out. Whether there's a cash flow problem in selling things and it turning it into cash, that's another question.
Yeah, we don't obviously want them to sell too soon.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm on the thought of whether it's a cash out or annuity, I'll tell you that when interest rates are higher, the cash out value is less. So it could possibly push them
Yeah.
towards an annuity versus a cash out. When interest rates are low, the cash value is a lot higher, the cash out value is a lot higher. So I know, the 2 people that are gonna retire, I know one's kind of like not sure whether they want to take the annuity and know whether they're gonna get X dollars a month, or take the lump sum and then basically they take the risk of running out of money, if they live to be 110.
Does the retirement plan, the union or the CWA provide any type of financial counsel for potential retirees?
The people that have retired since I've been here have usually worked with somebody outside.
Yeah.
They have their own person, investment advisor, that they'll go through the, what the cash value is, what the payout is, and they'll
Right.
talk with that individual to determine what they feel is the best.
Right.
So do we provide anything? We haven't since I've been here. Now, could they reach out to
Yeah, no, I know-
iHeart or?
No, some agencies have done that. But what we would give them is, if you retire today, this is what you can expect from us as a payout if you're going to seek a payout.
They get that every year. It usually gets out in September. The year ends in June, we gotta get them some payroll information, then I send them some more information, and it takes them 3 months to come up with 4 people. It takes a while for them to get that report, but they usually get the report the second or third week of September. So, the people who are active employees, and they get a dollar amount if they retired, and then what their annuity will be. For the 2 people that still have a while to go, it has what their annuity would be if they retire early, and what their annuity will be if they retire at 65. The other 2 people are 65 or close to 65. They just had 2 columns this year. They had a cash value and what they'll get at 65. So,
Why are there any payments shown for the in-between years? I would think that would be zero.
the annuity's going up. When it says that there's,
Okay, we don't pay that, well, buy that, so to speak, of money? Housing
that comes out of Washington Trust. They send the people who want annuities that money every month.
That's what I.
So the 9 people,
Okay.
the 9 or 12 people, whatever it says, term vested in, because those 12 people that are listed there that aren't active, those are people that have annuities. Because we've had people who have retired and left and taken their money, and they're not on here anymore because they've taken the lump sum. So those 12 people are getting annuities out of that 200,000
Right,
a year.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our funding position has benefited from the market doing so well over the last 5 years. Interest rates now being a bit higher than they've been over the past 5 years. So as we talked about yesterday, now's the time to get out. Because if the market goes down or interest rates go down, we're not going to be in as good a position.
Yeah, I mentioned to Jen that you may ask that question. If not, I'll touch base with her again and say, you're interested in at least finding out what the steps would be to, roll out the remaining people in the plan, basically close the plan out, spin it out on its own.
Well, and with, maybe mix up 2 different discussions, but we were talking last night at the Finance Committee about the capital monies that we have and how they're used and so forth. And then I see this here, and I'm wondering about lowering liability, but the liability is not all that much, so I don't think it's an issue here. But maybe others think differently. Anyway. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to the executive director.
Minutes.
Minutes. Move to approve.
Second.
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
A motion made and seconded. Any discussion of the minutes, any corrections, any issues with the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to approving of the minutes? No, it's unanimous. Now the executive director's report.
Okay. For the Kentucky Pipeline project, we received the data update required by the amendment, kind of updated where they were. A lot of it's been passed from the month before. They still seem to be on track of getting things in for the agencies by the end of the year. It does note, provide an update regarding the one property owner at the northern connection point where we need some private property to do the trenchless crossing under the railroad. They've had to modify their work zone area for that property owner. They provided a revised plan. They have not heard back from them to date. So that's going to be ongoing, and we'll probably have no more involvement from us here, because every way of that.
In looking at their report,
Yes.
I don't see that they did anything, honestly. If you, from their previous month, everything basically says the same thing, where we're at 60%, 80%, working towards 90%.
Right.
Is there any, there's nothing.
No.
Steve, have you seen any plans or anything with this progress that they've made to going towards 90%?
Only the plan for the northern crossing, which I just talked about. But no.
No paper
No.
You know, for the money we're paying them at the stage we're in, I think they ought to be here every month showing us in black and white what they've done, how far the line progressed.
I agree with you.
Steve, I'm looking at page 3 of the Beta report, and there is a paragraph there indicating that we and the city are discussing joint facility.
Yes.
It says that we requested blending station design be paused. What's happening there, or why is it paused? It sounds like a failure of agreement between us and East Providence.
I'm sorry, Carl?
It sounds like a failure of agreement between us and East Providence.
No, in fact, we had a meeting, that's my next point there. So we did meet with the East Providence Administration on September 30th. We discussed the amendment and the blending and control stations to be located in East Providence. They're in agreement. They're going to move forward with modifying our agreement, the cautionary agreement for the design. They need to get approval through the city council for that. And they're also in agreement with respect to building just one building for the blending control station, which would be located at their water storage facilities at Kent Heights.
How does the blending station work out in the event that East Providence does not go through with their part of the pipeline? And that's worrying me, I guess, the fact that we could be working with someone who is not on.
Well, we're gonna have, how it's going to be designed in that it's like one building, but it's going to be actually two separate operations. So we're gonna have our piece, built if they decide not to be. But it'll be designed. If they don't go forward, I mean, we can still just build our piece of it. It's kind of almost like think of it like a condo duplex. It's gonna be one building, two separate stations within the building. That way we're responsible for dosing, and, blending and more control. So each entity is responsible for its treatment. We feel that's the best way for, for permitting and whatnot,
So December is supposed to be 90% report.
90% at the permitting agencies, yes.
And how long are they gonna have to do the last 10%?
We're probably right up until December 31st.
When the permits get submitted, does DCWA get a copy of that, so for review?
Oh, yeah, I typically have to sign it.
So as part of your executive report, we'll see what permits, like in the next
Yes.
month. In the next month, we're supposed to see about 4 or 5 of them.
You should be getting close, yeah. The end of the year's coming up quick.
Yeah, that's it. I see a permit coming in the door right now.
But the permits only last
Probably
so
for you,
long.
Joe.
Then they're gonna run out by the time they get to the last 10%.
Yeah, what was troubling in this report was that they would acknowledge what they had told us was the schedule, but then they would say, previously noted to be the end of September, but now it's October something. And it pops up several times in the report. So John, you mentioned, you made a suggestion, was that a motion?
Not at this time.
Okay.
But I think maybe we should make it a motion to get them to move.
Well, we put the condition on to the end of the month. I mean,
Yeah, that's
they're
right.
satisfied with
They're working under that other
their monthly
condition.
report, every single detail of every line of a piece of plan that we want to see. I mean, I really need to see that. I think if it gets to the point where they don't meet that stipulation, then we need to take some other type of action.
All right.
So question one, Joe, I don't know whether you've seen this, but there was a sentence in their report that said, it's our understanding that DCWA's legal counsel is currently working to engage with affected property owners and prepare easement documents. I don't know if there's any update on that front.
So I prepared the documents,
Yeah.
and then Steve and Mike were gonna approach the property owners. So I prepared like a draft, like outline, not outline, like a template, I guess. So the way we've done it in the past is a permanent easement and then a temporary construction easement because we need access to the properties to do construction. So they're gonna talk to the property owners with, and that gave them an entree to say, hey, look, here's, something to look at.
The other property stumbling block has to do with the ACB Realty on that owns that industrial land that we need to use a portion of. And there was a second proposal that was sent out and they haven't responded to that as of yet. So I don't know if that's something you are familiar with.
Joe hasn't been involved in that one yet because they haven't received any concurrence that they're accepted of the work zone. He may have to get involved at some point though.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this area? I'm with your report.
Okay. So for the demo, as you all know, the board voted to wait on the submission of the pre-designed plans, and those we do expect to receive by the end of the month. We had a very good 2-day design workshop. The architects and engineers actually came here. We met upstairs in the training room. So with all of us, with staff in the room, they kind of took a lot of our input, and they're kind of moving this along pretty well. They know what our timelines are, so we should have some information that we can at least put into the budget numbers, when we meet with the finance committee in November. And then for the demolition, I got forwarded to you that we had a new story on the plant. The reporter I called just wanted to get an update, so just told him what happened over that past month regarding the properties committee and the board. So,
You apparently didn't go back and get any more opinion from the people that want to protect it and save it, because there was no comments in there. I thought it was a very good report. I don't know if Bob, did you get a Phoenix?
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing in there, but it was in the Warren Gazette.
yeah, front page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sent it out to everybody though, I read.
Yeah.
Just, if it's, we were supposed to go to the council in Warren, that's why we hiccuped last month. Somebody's gonna tell the town of Warren what we're planning to do.
I thought we were gonna hold off.
I thought we were gonna
I thought we were gonna wait and then, before we actually make a decision, let them know.
I haven't heard any questions from the council.
I mean, it's out there in the paper,
Well, yeah, I know, but I thought with our discussion last month, we ended up with, let's make sure the Warren Council is aware, not obviously they're aware if they pick up the paper, but
Committee would ensure that the results would go to the Warren Town Council and keep them informed of the progress.
so who was gonna do that?
Bill.
The bus, you ride the bus anyhow.
I can certainly pick up the phone and call Brian Sullivan, the town manager, and let him know.
Yeah, just ask me if you read that paper.
But I thought we were putting any action on hold until we got the
Yeah,
report from
until we got
the in-house report to
the
say.
plans and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that was me calling Dave and Chris saying, other than addressing the two buildings, the property committee shouldn't do anything else because we're gonna get confused. Just the two buildings are on the table right now. The remainder of the properties BCWA owns and what we're gonna do with them is something we have to take up once the buildings are going.
Well, we weren't gonna take any action on the two that may come down until we got the report from the design meeting that was held last week, or the week before. And that report doesn't come out for, I mean,
That should prevent us from getting some clarification on what we can do with those other pieces of land that were bought with watershed money.
yeah,
We gotta know what we can do with them. We may not be able to do anything with them.
yeah,
They were purchased with state funds.
when I was the director of the Water Resources Board, my understanding is that you can only use it for watershed protection and nothing else. And if you were going to use it for other uses, you'd probably have to pay the state back the money that they went and gave you.
I think that in itself is a question for Mr. Keough to go and find out what perpetuity is on those. Because that's the word.
We can tell you what perpetuity is. No, you and I talked about that.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
it
I
equals
can-
what it is, and you're no longer in that venue, what do we do?
I had mentioned to Stephen a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, that I stumbled across the Water Resources Board's strategic plan that was prepared in 2012. And it had a section in there regarding this land and other lands like it. And it was basically what I just said, that if it's not being used, the agency would have to refund the money to the state. But we can get a formal opinion from the Water Resources Board pretty easily on that.
Well, if that's the case, we could always get our legislators to put something in the legislation to just wipe that out for us. If that's what it comes down to.
Right. It's always a possibility.
Are we better off not poking the bear?
The what?
I said, are we better off not poking the bear?
And I was going to say, and on the director's report,
Let's,
Okay.
like Director Martin said, we'll deal with the buildings first and then we'll deal with the properties. Okay, so for the dam removal, the contractor's done. They completed the punch list of items and seeded the area. And then October 16th and 17th, we had a big tree planting party that was organized by Save the Bay. Wendy Ferguson, who's been a champion for the dam removal project, and helped out Bristol County Water considerably in obtaining grants for this project. She had kind of spearheaded this organization effort, getting people out there to help with shovels and big plants. And chairman was out there, bringing in some shrubs and trees. It was good to see. I mean, it's good to get part of the community involved. And Wendy Ferguson is really good because they show up and she kind of gives anyone who volunteered, give them an update on the project, the need for the project, the ecological benefits of the project, and so it's all good. Nothing new to report regarding the Shad Pipeline project. Lead service line replacement program chart's been updated. With one significant note is that our last known lead gooseneck service on the public side was replaced by our own in-house crew this past month. So all the lead that we know is gone. The private service line inspection program is wound down. That was funded by the state. They successfully inspected and were able to remove 152 service lines from the unknown list, so that was a very helpful effort. And then we will soon be sending out a lot of notifications on those folks that we still don't know what their service lines are made of, or if they have a galvanized iron service line. We're still receiving the lead notification notice as per the state law. That continues for a 10-year period. Not longer.
Minimally, the letters may go out forever as long as that condition persists.
I'm still waiting on the final, on the Fountain Avenue tank. We did get some comments from DOH, so part of it kind of modifying that report. Get that, because it's kind of been lingering. Wrap that project up soon, at least that report up. Water purchases for September decreased by 9% compared to last year, and 6% less than the prior 5-year average, but the year to date was still just about 2% less than the prior 5-year average. The graphs are attached. Capital improvement projects, see the budget's still okay there. Then with respect to personnel, we did conduct testing and interviews for prospective candidates for a vacant water utility position. And we had some good candidates, and we have one person hope to have on board sometime by the end of the month. Our hydrant flushing will be complete this week in Bristol. Then with respect to public notification, we notified the additional 94 customers now that we completed the Gooding Avenue and pipeline replacement project that was corroded. We have been successfully changed them over to the high service area. So that's good news.
Have you had any feedback from, you sent out a letter to the customers? Any feedback from the customers on?
No, I don't get good news, so so I assume everything's going very well if I didn't hear anything.
No news is good news.
Yes.
What should be the pressure in the house now that you're on high pressure?
In that area, I think it was 45 and we added about 20, so that should be in the 60 to 70 range. Wow.
That's a good.
It's a good increase.
Yeah.
It's working well.
And the thing is, for the past, the past month or so during the construction, their pressure actually was lower than the 45 that they had. So we were getting complaints on that end.
A lot of that.
And the pressure dropped. But now that we've double to that. And it's budget season, so we've been working with that, going over the numbers of staff, and we will be ready to present that to the finance committee next month. With my
One question, maybe Mike was interested in Thames Street in Bristol. They're using that pipe now, or they're not using that pipe that's above ground? Or?
Yeah, so that's the temporary system so that they can cut in and improve and modify the piping in that block there. So they're beginning the testing stage. So they had to button it up, make all the final connections to the hydrants and whatnot, and then they flushed it and put disinfectant in it. So that's the process we're in now. So once that passes, we'll have to sample it to make sure the samples are good, get the people on that pipe, then the underground will progress.
I really wish the hydrant had just one handle like that.
The temporaries? Yeah, you can open them quick when they're on the temporary
Nice.
system. Yeah.
Thanks.
Anything else you want to add, Mike?
Not too much else. We did have rather big break associated with the hydrant flushing. Unfortunately, that happened in Barrington. It was an older asset, didn't have a valve in front of it, so there was a pretty big shutdown. Unfortunately, it didn't slam shut. Sometimes it will slam shut, but the internal part just kind of broke apart and we couldn't operate it. So that was the one on New Meadow Road in Barrington that closed school for the day.
Is there anything being done to prevent that in future hydrant flushing? Just because that made about half the town pretty angry that they had to cancel school that day.
So,
They're doing it on a weekend instead of doing it during like school hours, for example.
We do it at night. We don't do it during the day, but unfortunately the repair went into the day. We had to shut down all the piping to stop the water. There was no way to stop the water. So can we flush just on the weekends? No, we can't do that.
Well, more like areas that affect major public service areas such as schools. Because we had the Lincoln issue, Lincoln Ave issue with the high school a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Now we have this year, and I keep hearing from people around town, why can't we get our ducks in a row? Because we keep having breaks and closing the school as a result of water issues.
Yeah, and I understand the frustration, but it's not so much ducks in a row, it's how old are these assets. They're old, we need to operate them, and like out here in Charles Street, when we operate them, at that age, sometimes they are gonna break. They don't last forever. That hydrant was from the late 30s, early 40s, I think, so we are proactive, but we can't fix every old pipe and every old valve all at once. So the best we can do is keep that level of investment up that we're doing and work through the system. We have 1,000 hydrants. I don't know the average age off the top of my head, but we try to do 15 a year. And we try to incorporate as many old assets in our capital improvement project every year as well. So the more we can invest every year, the less these issues will arise.
Right, and a few years ago, we had a discussion about the level of capital funds we would put forward in upgrading the pipes around the district and other things. And I think we decided on we were spending $1 million a year. And if I remember correctly, to get to everything that we would have to get to, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to be wrong when I say this, that we had 50 years of projects ahead of us.
Unfortunately, the rule of thumb is about 1% per year. So we have 236 miles of pipe, so that's 2.3 miles of pipe replacement.
So,
some of the work we're doing is just rehab. So that cleans up the interior, but it doesn't address the age of the hose pipe.
So not to minimize your situation, because I can appreciate that. But you never know when something's going to fail. And you can go and say, well, we're going to replace the oldest things first, and then you find out that the work on Gooding yielded more corroded pipe. And my question to you is, what's with the area of Gooding that causes corroded pipe? Is it the groundwater? Is it the materials they used many years ago when they put these in? Was it poor workmanship? Any clue on that?
Yeah, I don't know if you recall, when we first came across this, when we expanded the high service, we had a big blowout over there that we had to get to. So normally when we go down and we dig it, we find the failure, and we chase it to its extent. Usually it's 18 inches, 2 feet. Worst case, we cut out 10 feet. But we find the break, and then we work our way back until we find good pipe. So when we came across that first failure, they go down, they find it, they isolate it, they keep chasing it back. Keep looking for good pipe, keep looking for good pipe. It was corroded, significantly corroded. So we knew it had, that area had very, very low pressure where this break was, and when we added it, that's when the break manifested. But we knew we couldn't put that high pressure back on it. The pipe was basically Swiss cheese. So we did look at the why, because that pipe was only from the 90s. Similar to the crossbag that experienced that significant rate of corrosion. So we did have Cortec look at the area up and downstream of this pipeline to try to see why. So long story short, the soil sampling yielded high chlorides. So we think it was salt intrusion, either poor drainage. Somehow it just saturated that soil with chlorides. So when we did this project, we removed all the soil. So we put back all completely new soil, clean soil. The pipe was also wrapped in a poly wrap, and that mitigates any sort of corrosion. So.
Yeah, no, the statement in your report was a simple one, and then you say see figures 3 and 4 when they turn the page and saw the photos.
Yeah.
They were quite alarming.
Yeah, so that's it. unfortunately what happens, and those conditions, especially in low pressure, can persist everywhere. They don't make a lot of noise, you need a lot of velocity and you need pressure to make noise so you can hear leaks. So in areas where there's low pressure, you can have these leaks go on for a very, very long time.
So Juan, just triggered a question. So it's spending $1 million a year on pipe replacement and like, I mean, I guess the question is, you do the budgeting process, is that the right number? Should it be more? Can we afford more? Again, I know you're probably gonna think about that.
No, we've been looking at that, and we had been doing $1 million, and we bumped it up to $1.5 million, and then you're gonna see the budget, and we were up to like $2 million, and even then, it's just, it doesn't get you a whole lot.
And it's a compounding thing, because the more work you have to do, the more workers you need to do the work, whether it's our own workers or outside contractors. And then if it's outside, then you need people to manage those people and so forth. So it snowballs.
Just the cost of the equipment too.
Yeah.
I guess one final question about brakes in general. Considering where the size or the impact is, do you ever post anything to the website to say, and give yourself a lot of time to say, we hope to remedy it by, 5 p.m. tomorrow, or?
We typically don't.
Yeah.
I know, like this, the one that we're talking about in Barrington, I mean, it was during the flushing. So they were flushing. What happened is they were flushing, and then the operator, they couldn't close the valve.
Yeah.
So he's out there, water's blowing.
Yeah.
So it's not just a matter of just getting the crew out there. A crew get out there, pretty quickly to respond, but you also have to call in emergency dig safe. So I know in this particular case, you had to wait for National Grid to show up to mark the lines.
Oh, sure, I'm just wondering, do you post anything to the website?
Even though that was done, I mean, they did get it, the water was back on by 9 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, it was, we didn't meet, the school had to make a decision before that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good point though, and I think that might be something that Randy could explore in doing. And I think we've talked in the past, and maybe with some other utility that I'm thinking of, but where you have the automatic phone calls that go out to alert people in certain areas that there's going to be an issue or something like that.
It was on the news at 6 in the morning.
I'm sorry?
It was on the news at 6 in the morning.
Okay.
Get up.
I mean, they go around, I mean, they do shut down, they let the affected area people know, that the water's gonna shut off.
Don't schools throw out to the parents the status really quick?
Yes. Yeah.
The kids are happy.
But the working parents are.
Yeah.
Take your kid to
Mike, what type of pipe was that in Goody? Cast iron?
Oh, that was ductile iron from the 90s.
Oh, from the 90s?
Yeah.
short pipe.
Colin?
So, just giving some updates on the capital improvement projects. So, for the 2025 one, that was what we're used to doing, but they've completed all pipe installation work, as well as all the valves, temporary patch. Everything has been tied in, and the newly installed pipe is now being used. We've already touched upon, after the work was done on Gooding Ave, on the next page, I included a map of the mailing that we sent out to these affected customers, that they're on the high service expansion, or they're on the high service now. So the only thing they have left to do is the permanent patch and the final asphalt restoration, which is going to be mill and overlay of Child Street, Gooding Ave, and Naomi Street in Bristol. So we don't have a concrete date on that yet, but they said spring of next year. Also, UConn, for last year's capital improvement project, they did all the mill and overlay that they were required to do in late September, early October. And so they've done all their work, and now we are looking at project closeout for that as well.
Glad to see that the red, white, and blue stripes are in place.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's the best stretch of 114 that there is in the whole town.
I just wish somebody would repair 114 in Warren near the Audubon Society. That's like a roller coaster. It's a horrendous stretch of road. I know it has nothing to do with
Yeah. And then just some miscellaneous projects that I'm just giving some updates on. So we talked about Bristol Lofts earlier. MJD Excavation began their work. They began the work on getting ready for the bypass that was on October 6th. We've been coordinating with them pretty closely, making sure they're on track. And like we said, there was they're in the process of flushing, and then they're going to be looking at disinfection and testing. So that's the first step. Get the bypass all approved, and then they can start putting people on it and start doing the actual work. The Mount Hope High School renovation, we're still working on product sales with Jer Vinagro. So that is still ongoing. There's no updates on the middle school fire protection service relay. No schedule provided, but I think generally that would just happen construction season next year. And we've been working with JML Excavation on private side galvanized iron service replacement. We've been doing some site visits and putting some prices together for interested customers.
Colin, you had the drawings for going into the loft and stuff with the water supply for, in my tenure with that, before it was gonna be the loft, they never had a backflow preventer in there. Is that part of your side or their side? And who's paying it? Did they have it?
That is technically on their side, but any new service requires a backflow preventer.
Okay.
Every application, we take a look at what the hazards are associated with it. And yeah, there's certainly backflow preventers. I think off the top of my head, domestic is going to be an RPZ, and the fire protection is a dual check, dual assembly. So they're definitely, all services have backflow
A
preventers.
number of times we went there, especially when hydrant flushing took place. Phenomenal. Oh yeah, the alarms would go, and as soon as you turned the hydrant in and shut it off, boom, they would go. Because they didn't have a preventer. Thank you.
Dan. Alrighty. What is September, 7 months in. Page 4, we have September versus September. Revenue's quite a bit higher for this September than last September. That's just due to higher consumption for the month for September versus last year, along with the rate increase. The expenses are a little bit lower, 7.9% lower. These largely due to, we had salaries and operations being lower, almost 16,000. There's actually a large decrease in overtime. Last September we had almost 55,000, only about 15 this September, so that's the bulk of that. There was a decrease in water purchased for the month of about 34,000. And there was a decrease in some operation maintenance expenses, about 27,000 change, and that's just timing of some of the items we've purchased in there. The through September starts to get a little boring once we get further into the year. Through September, revenue's 4.47% higher. That's really just the rate increase, offset a little bit by a slight decrease in consumption through September. And we did have those monthly billers, remaining monthly bill customers that we flipped over to quarterly, so that's helping that a little bit. Expenses are a little bit higher, 3.63%. The big three this month, actually, I think it changed from last month. Salaries and wages admin was up for 48,000, that's really just raises given. And last year, we had an open position for part of the year, so that was part of that. Professional fees are up due to some additional legal and engineering fees this year, along with the audit fee being higher than it's been in prior years. And those were offset by a little decrease in admin expense due to the decreased pension contribution this year versus last year. And there was a decrease in the cost of preparing the annual report this year versus last year. We'll see the pension contribution go down because based on that calculation that they just gave us, we don't have to put in any money for the rest of the year, so you continue to see that grow, the difference. Versus budget, revenue's up 11.39%. That's just basically the current usage exceeding what we budgeted for the 7 months. Expenses are under budget, almost 8%. The 3 big ones in there were employee benefits, which is probably largely the pension, computer expense, and then purchase water being down.
Hey Dan.
Yeah.
Slash Joe. Has there been a collection on a significant receivable?
Sure there has been. We got a couple on, we got a payment.
Well, a couple $100,000.
Yeah, last month or early this month, something like that. Another one's due like in December, January-ish.
No.
No, you're right, they're paying the current charges and then another couple hundred is due.
No, 400 and...
They have
Balance is due next August.
Yeah.
They could
So we made
prepay if they want. If not, interest.
People, they want to keep going.
Yeah, but they have to pay each quarterly bill in full.
Tell them the tenants.
and interest is accruing on that past due.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good call for me.
I was curious.
We were happy.
Don't think I wasn't, I didn't have that marked in my calendar.
I thought maybe Joe had the check.
Oh, we got the check. We're like, yeah, we got the check.
I think I scanned it and sent it to Steve. Pages 7 through 9, like dollars billed and gallons delivered. As we mentioned, the dollars billed increased 3.1%, and there's a very small decrease, less than 1% in consumption for the month. For the year. The difference is just being the rate increase. The trust fund report for September shows we're at 10.25, which is up slightly from August. The pension summary report for the month, pension is up 184,000 due to unrealized gains and contributions exceeding the fees and disbursements. And then as of September 30th, the balance is $4,012,000. And I don't usually get the OPEB, I get it quarterly, and I got it extra this month because the pension report, the pension investment, and I'm not getting the mail right away. So I have to email them and they send it to me, and they send me the OPEB summary, so I included that just for purposes as well, since I had it. I think it shows July through September. Yeah, July through September.
That's the year-to-date column.
Yeah, the pension report, like I mentioned a couple months ago, they stopped including the year-to-date, you just have months, so I'm not in control about that, but. And as Steve had mentioned, we've been feverishly working on the budget. I got most of the numbers in there, I'm just waiting for an estimated, where I can use my estimated interest rate for the, proposed bond issues that we might have out there. Wait that'll finalize a couple of other numbers, and then we'll be ready. Plenty of time for the finance meeting.
Any questions at the end?
Excellent.
All set? Okay, thank you. Report from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee met yesterday, and we discussed 5 items on that agenda. The first item was about the audit process, and there was discussion amongst the board, the committee, to have a more formal process with both a pre-audit meeting with the auditors, and also having another finance committee meeting prior to the issuance of the financial reports. That way the board can review a draft of the financial statements, provide any comments to the auditing firm that can be made and adjusted prior to issuance of the final report. The second item was, we talked about the investment policy. So as we're working towards the Pawtucket pipeline and other projects across the street, we thought it'd be a good idea to review our investment policy to make sure that we're maximizing our returns, and so that money can be applied to future construction costs. So we're looking to work with both Dan and the rest of management, as well as the finance committee, to update that policy to increase the return on the cash on hand, but not putting them in risky assets. The third item was about the pension plan that was discussed earlier. We talked about potentially rolling that all into a separate plan and removing it from our books through either annuity or another process. So Dan and Steve are gonna reach out to NIHAR to talk about what that process looks like, what the dollar cost would be to us as the authority to be able to potentially offload it. It might be a good time, since the assets in that pension plan are almost fully funded towards that liability. So it seems like a good time to start having that conversation. The fourth thing we talked about was the OPEB plan and the OPEB trust. That one's not as well funded as the pension plan. That one's in the 38% range. So we discussed about what the idea of what we're trying to accomplish with the OPEB plan, because currently we're in a pay-go process, which means that when an invoice comes in from our insurance provider, we just cut them a check out of our operating account. So we're not really using that OPEB trust for funding of those future retirement liabilities. So based on that discussion, it was always the plan to get that OPEB trust up to like a 90 to 100%, 80 to 100% range, and then have it start being self-funding those retirement insurance costs. And then on the fifth item was just a review and a couple modifications potentially for the purchasing policy, just to get it updated to current standards.
Question. I always have a question. Very sorry. When you talked about the audit committee and doing the audits earlier, the board seeing it earlier than does that impact our, I don't know, your annual process or something like that? Are we going to be able to get everything done earlier, it seems?
The idea is just we had comments, so the board had comments last year.
Well, I know we had the end result before we even knew it was.
Exactly.
I think there's enough. I think there's some time in there. The last couple of years have been kind of anomalies, and this year too. Like I went back and looked, and I wasn't sure what we were talking about in the meeting. The audit did start about a week and a half to 2 weeks later than it had the previous couple of years. I put it in my calendar. I didn't put it in 3 years ago. So we lost a couple of weeks there. And then on top of that, they had to do an A133 audit, which probably added another week or so. And then when you figure, you know, it was a whole new audit for them, there are additional work that they have to do, which added some time. So I think what I mentioned at the meeting, you know, if they start on where they had historically, or maybe if we can become a week earlier or so, there shouldn't be, and they know ahead of time, the finance committee wants to review these before they issue.
So we'll have to have a meeting to make sure that we don't affect the timeline, make sure we can meet compliance with our.
Well, should we said, as long as they'll advise that the board wants to be involved, then they should be able to accommodate it in their schedule.
Yeah.
I thought they had come earlier, and I talked to Steve today. I thought even the other firm had come to one of the meetings like in January, February, and done their pre-audit communications that they had to, but Steve couldn't remember and I couldn't either. So that's Steve can attest to. That's usually, you know, one of the things a lot of firms do. They'll come out the beginning before the audit starts and present to the those charged with governance, the pre-audit communications, and that's easy enough to work in with them. And just pick a date and make them come.
It was a great meeting. Any other questions, comments? Okay, next item on the agenda is board member town council reports. Does anybody have anything to report regarding the town councils? Nothing, okay. Move on to an action item regarding on-call engineering services.
Yes, Steve. So every 3 years, PCWA goes out, puts on RFP for on-call engineering services for various categories of engineering services that we may need over that time period. The categories are business consulting, dam engineering, security services, water utility information management, transmission and distribution, water quality, environmental services, construction and management services. Now, we list these, but it's not to say that we're going to be doing a project in each of these categories or any project at all. But the purpose of this is we're essentially pre-qualifying companies that we feel qualified to provide these services, so that when we do have a project come up, we call on them to provide costs, and we don't select the lowest cost between those that were selected. So Mike dove into each of the proposals. We did, this year we actually received 6. Firms were interested in working with us, which is much higher than in years past. And I have to say that each of the firms are well qualified and well known in the area. Those firms are Arcadis, Beta Group, Bar Corporation, Ty and Bond, Wright Pierce, and GZA. Now, not each of these companies have the specialty or the interest in doing all these specific categories, so they actually provide information specific to those categories. So if you look at Mike's memo, he's recommending the specific companies for each of the categories, and so I'm asking board approval for as such.
Motion to approve the engineering firms listed in each category per the attached memorandum to provide on-call engineering services upon request for a period of 3 years.
Have a motion second.
This is all,
Any
this
questions?
is all 8
You said 8. It says
categories.
eight.
I want to vote no on one.
Well, we can amend it.
The memo says 6, you say 8, I counted 7. So I need to show the number.
Probably another break.
8 categories, 6 companies.
There was 6 companies,
No worries, come with this.
and there's 8 categories.
Category.
Arcadis, Par, Wright Pierce, GZA. Okay, yep, I found the right miscount. All right. John, do you want to elaborate?
I want to vote no on the 8th one. But not the others, I'll vote for the others.
Okay. Okay, you're singling out 8, so is there any need to single out any one of the other 7 categories that are here? Anybody have any
Sure you
other
didn't.
thoughts?
I'm not sure, you're taking out Beta?
So that'd be.
There are other
4 or 5
categories
years.
as well, you know.
I'll vote, I'll vote
And 7.
for the B in the 8th category.
Okay, where I was going here is that there's no comment or exclusions or on the other 7 categories. We'll take that as one vote, and then we'll take the 8th category number 8 as a separate vote and discussion.
Do we still have dam things?
What's that?
Is it dam engineering? Why do we have?
Yeah, dam engineering.
Yes.
It's not a comment on engineering.
We still have dams.
Still not dams. Damn bad luck. Okay, That's all right. No, all I'm saying is that the motion was to approve all of them.
Right, okay.
And I want to vote, register a no vote
So,
on the
the
8th.
person
that's
who
all.
made the motion, would you consider that a friendly amendment to your motion to separate item 8?
So, yeah.
Okay, and if we have a second on that, and is there any discussion on items 1 through 7 that you would want to take up now?
What's the amended motion?
The amended motion is to approve
1 through 7.
1 through
One through
7,
seven.
in categories 1 through 7, the companies that are listed. We have a motion and a second. There's no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, now we take up item 8 separately. And the motion here,
Well, the
John
motion
is,
already made, basically,
the motion is to approve these 3, and that was seconded as part of the other motion. And so the question now, is there any discussion?
yeah, I want to vote no. That's my discussion.
Well, that's.
I want to
that's
send
the-
a message. I want to
that's the-
send a
That's
message.
the action you're taking, but, and that is you're using the experience that you've gained as a board member dealing with the companies that are in this
I
list.
really don't have to explain it.
No, I'm trying to explain it for the minutes. And that we can vote on this in the.
Very simply, I'm not satisfied with their performance, okay? In
So
other-
your
in other
motion, your
fields.
motion is to exclude Beta.
I'm not making any motion.
Why don't you just vote on it, and then he can vote no?
Okay. But if you're trying to make a statement, that's what I'm trying to help you out on.
Well, the way I followed this, maybe I'm following the whole thing wrong. I thought the A is the one you're awarding the contract to.
No.
No.
You've pre-qualified all of the
Oh,
companies.
you're going to be
that-
able to use all these people for?
We'll go and solicit specific proposals for a project, if you have a project.
You basically pre-qualified.
I
these
thought you were,
companies.
and then I stand corrected, because I thought that's what that was. I thought this was the way it was broken down,
Yeah.
and we were
It's just
picking.
now
You basically pre-qualified these to be able to bid on, submit price proposals in the future when a
They're
project.
just in alphabetical order. Alphabetical order.
And I don't have any objection, period. I'm not.
Okay.
I thought we were selecting the A as the one that was going to be.
No.
Be awarded.
These are just, these are just
It's gonna be a
votes.
standard.
All right, I
And
stand.
they are in alphabetical.
Then don't take the amended motion away. I'll
No,
vote
no, we already did that, just vote on it.
Just vote on
it.
Just vote
So
on it.
on item A, all those in favor of all those in favor of the recommendation of the director as it is written in the memo? Say aye.
Aye. The director knows how I feel, so it's aye.
Well done.
Okay,
I apologize for that.
that's okay, that was fun.
Sorry, that's another message you'll receive.
And here's something, the next item on the agenda, the modification to customer rules and regulations at the request of our attorney. Stephen?
Yeah, I can do the memo, but effectively, as, we have a document of customer rules and regulations, and Attorney Keough has recommended that we add a section specifically 2.16 regarding meters and billing. Basically, okay, number 1 says the quantity of water reported by the meter shall be accepted as correct by both the customer and BCWA, except when the meter has been found to be registering inaccurately as provided for herein. And number 2, when the meter has been found to be registering inaccurately as provided for herein, the quantity of water water used will be determined by the average registration of the meter when working, or by such other fair and reasonable methods as shall be based on the best information available, and the bill shall be calculated based on said average registration or other fair and reasonable methods. This is what we do now, but it is not specifically written in our custom rules and regulations.
So it was in the rules and regulations before 2019, and for whatever reason, when the 2019 rules got passed, those dropped out for some reason, so we're just restoring it.
What got dropped out was how to determine what the water use, billable water use would be during a non-functioning meter.
Yes.
And
Should we have discussion after we have a motion?
These rules were in place for years. For whatever reason, when the 2019 rules got redone and adopted, I looked, they weren't even in the draft, so I don't know why they dropped out.
Joe, is a totally non-functioning one clearly one that's recording inaccurately, or should you add a word to that?
I would leave it.
let's have a motion on this.
Motion to approve the modifications to BCWA's customer rules and regulations as presented.
Okay, it's been seconded. Yeah, I guess this is what would happen. Somebody got their bill and it was based on average registration of the meter when working or other fair and reasonable methods. I guess that's where the dispute starts, is the claim of that wasn't fair and reasonable. And,
you can't eliminate
right.
disputes. I just, those are, it's pretty much how every water utility does it anyhow.
Yeah.
So.
We were doing it in practice, and it just wasn't,
Yeah.
it just somehow wasn't in the rules and regulations.
It was we're correcting an oversight.
How is it typically found that a meter is not registering properly? Somebody gets a bill that's way too high. Usually meters register on the low side. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, they'll underread, and then they look at the differential from previous quarters if it's
Right.
if
So
it has completely failed.
somebody in billing may be reviewing the billings as they're going out, and they see that John Smith typically was getting a $500 a period bill, and they see it's now 100. So then they may ask operations to go out and check the person's meter. Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Everybody understand this process? Okay. No questions, no comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive?
Motion to go to executive session
You don't need subpart I.
pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A5.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Joe?
We don't need to go to executive session for litigation, just for the potential property disposition.
Which is the one I stated.
Okay. All right, have a motion second.
Third.
All those in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Going into executive session. Motion to seal the minutes from the executive.
So moved, Chair.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All the ayes have it. And there's a memo in your package from the director regarding the next couple of meetings. And Steve, do you want to summarize?
Yeah, this seems to come up this time of year,
When's the fourth Christmas?
as, you know, with the holidays and budget season. I mean, the next scheduled board meeting is supposed to be November 13th, which is right around the corner. In the past, what we've done is reserve that exclusively for a finance committee meeting, which is a presentation of the budget, the finance committee, and then the full board. Then next full board meeting would be on December 11th.
Do I have a motion in this?
So moved.
Yeah.
Comment.
Yeah.
I would appreciate the monthly data report be sent out to the board,
Okay.
please, to see, because this time period, by the time we do reconvene in any sense, we should be at 100% on all stuff. So I'd like to see November, December.
90.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
His report would be due on the 15th.
Yes.
But I can distribute that report anyways.
Just email everybody or whatever, please.
So December 11th?
December 11th is the next board.
December 11th.
We don't need you for.
That's what you think. No.
We're not in the annual budget.
I don't.
That's right.
I had a motion and it was seconded to adopt this.
That wasn't second.
Was it seconded?
Second.
Let's go. There it is. I just heard it.
My wife
It was an echo.
was in the shop.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.